Hello and welcome back to Killer Score, the podcast that covers cult classic films with phenomenal soundtracks and scores we believe deserve a little more attention. I, of course, am here with Rich and Erin.
Hi.
We are recording at our humble abode, Erin and I, which we are in the process of moving into.
Which is why this place looks so fucking weird.
Yeah.
And why the audio will be echoey, just like our earlier episodes.
Yeah, but we'll fix it in post, as they say.
Yeah. I'm sorry, fixing it in post means we're not fixing the problem.
Yeah, we will. We will fix it in post.
I got it.
He's got it.
In charge.
Anyway, we are here to talk about good old Shaun of the Dead, which I am very enthusiastic to talk about. It's a personal favorite film of mine. I've seen it a bunch of times. Ignore the microphone. So before we get into that, though, we've learned that you guys like to know what we've been up to, what we've been doing lately. We've been working a lot. Richie and I have been particularly working on voice acting stuff. We brought up before we're going into Soul Ripple. I've been pulling some extra hours of work, and I haven't seen any new movies recently, but I did finish reading 1Q84, which was okay. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was
Just gonna
very plotting too. Like a lot could be cut out. His stuff did add a bit, but I felt Ushikawa was a pretty superfluous character. They probably could have cut out a lot of his stuff, really made the book shorter. One of the weaker Murakami projects. And I also beat Mario RPG. Delightful little game.
Oh, wait. That was your first time, too, right?
Yeah. I went into it with the remake because before this, the Super Nintendo original was a very expensive game.
Yeah.
So, and, I know emulation's a thing. I just never got around to setting up an SNES emulator and emulating it. But
tell me about your hot take, because that's funny.
Oh, yeah. Everyone who wanted Gino for Smash is kind of a moron because he's a pretty bland and boring character in my opinion. He's just a generic cool guy RPG character.
Cool guy.
The only reason I could see you people would want him for Smash is his moveset would be kind of interesting in Smash. But even then, my hot take, Mallow is a funnier, more interesting character.
Adorable, too.
He's adorable. I would rather have Mallow in Smash than Gino. And even above that, I would rather have other Mario spin-off characters before the Mario RPG characters.
Case in point, half the Paper Mario cast.
Yeah, the Paper Mario cast. I'm one of those freaks who wants Waluigi so bad. And my other hot take on Smash is Piranha Plant was a great addition to the cast. You people are just mean.
I love Piranha Plant.
Yeah.
he's such a weird little guy, and I love him.
I like how it just bounces around.
He just bounces around and eats people.
Bounces around in a pipe.
Boom,
and he spits and his main moveset is spitting shit at you. I love it.
So,
it's like a llama.
It's funny that these two have brought up work because I got a nice little promotion at my day job. Won't disclose, obviously, but
for safety reasons.
For safety reasons, just in case because
I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah. Anywho.
Oh, there is one thing that Erin and I did do recently though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the play.
Oh yes, we actually saw 2 musicals in the past 2 months.
Yeah, yep. On Broadway.
First was
Hadestown, which
I'm sure you guys have
You're probably familiar with Hadestown.
You probably heard of Hadestown. It's been the darling of
it's been the Tony's
circuit.
darling for years.
Yeah, it's been the darling of the theater circuit for the last few years. It is as good as everyone says
it is.
Go see it. It's really phenomenal.
And the other one we saw is Merrily We Roll Along.
Yeah, which revival of the very contentious Sondheim show. One of his shortest lasting Broadway runs. It only ran for like 12 performances.
Yeah. But what they did with this is
they streamlined it
because in the original Broadway production, Merrily Roll Along, it jumps around different time periods to try to tell the story of these characters.
Yeah.
But in the revival, what they did is they had it starting at the end and going backwards.
Yeah.
From a party where it was like the main character.
Finally, yeah, where Frank loses his
last friend, basically.
His last true friend, basically.
Yeah. All the way back to like when he and his friends met in college.
Yeah, and it slowly rewinds the clock to show you how Frank became this like highly successful yet jaded individual who like gave up on a lot of his passions.
Yeah, because the character of Frank basically was like he was a musician who wrote for Broadway shows and off Broadway, and then he got like a movie deal, and then he became this big Hollywood star. Basically,
yeah, he became like a big Hollywood producer and composer and stuff.
Yeah,
who surrounds himself with like
with
shallow
famous
people and like people who are just like yes men, essentially.
Yeah, which if it leads to him having an affair with one of his actresses, and then
he has an affair with another actress,
and it ruins his marriage, and so on and so forth.
But it's really powerful because the show basically is like, the reason it's so powerful for me at least is because by rewinding time, you essentially get to be more impacted by this because a happy ending becomes a sad ending because you've seen how it crumbles.
Yeah, because
you don't even have to see it in the show. You just kind of see where it's going.
Well, no, you do see it. The show starts at the future when like the relationship between these three friends has crumbled and completely fallen apart. But by rewinding back to when they first met,
it's even more like painful to watch
because like you're like they have all these hopes and dreams
or whatever,
and they all get it, but it kills them all, and they all like hate it.
Yeah.
So, as I've alluded to before, schedule will be weird on my end. So, not too soon, but eventually I'm gonna have to either see how I can finagle filming on a Monday or a Tuesday somehow, or I'll get you some coffee or something. I don't know.
We'll figure this out.
We'll figure it out.
Or I'll
change in schedule.
Or I'll just
we'll still be here.
Rub shoulders with my coworkers or something.
Or you guys could really go super hard on the Ko-Fi and the Patreon.
So we don't have.
If you go super hard on the Ko-Fi and the Patreon, then scheduling will not be an issue
at all.
Wink. So, as Daulton alluded to earlier, I've been working a lot on Soul Ripple. They've already had me recording about, 20 minutes worth of dialogue for the prologue. That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've been auditioning for other stuff and working on my Astro Song audio drama series.
Yep.
Second episode,
which we are both parts of.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that I'm in this house, I will be able to work much more succinctly on my YouTube channel. I got some good new key art for that I'm going to post. New good channel icon.
Yeah.
And I will be doing more music. I'm probably going to make a SoundCloud or something at some point. Don't know when that's happening. I still have to move a piano.
Yeah. A Bandcamp, mayhaps, if you want to buy her stuff.
Yeah. So, I don't know about that yet, but eventually.
Yeah, eventually she might do a Bandcamp.
And
it's the best route for indie artists to make money.
Yeah, that's true.
As for media that I've been up to lately, I haven't gotten to see a lot of new movies at all.
Yeah, neither
but my dear friend, best buddy in the world basically, and co-writer Miss Oathbreaker had me over at her place to see a Netflix animated show that I've been really into. Just finished the first season. It's called Blue Eye Samurai.
Oh yeah,
that
just won like a Annie Award.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it won that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was compete against some other stuff. I know Amazing Digital Circus was in it.
So,
which, by the way, just side note, if you somehow haven't seen the pilot for the Amazing Digital Circus yet, for the love of God, watch it. It's one of the best original animated, indie shows I've seen out there.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
So
you
surreal.
Don't need anything to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
great. Shaun Chiplock has one of my favorite performances of his in it.
Shout out to, speaking of voice actors, to Lizzie Freeman as Pomni. She was fantastic.
But yeah, Shaun Chiplock as Kingler is like one of my favorite performances of his. Goes to show you Shaun could do comedy really well too.
Oh yeah.
He's got range.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blue Eye Samurai's great. It's about a half-white Ronin who's looking for the assholes who ruined her life. It's great. Probably my favorite deconstruction of revenge story type things.
Okay.
It gave me Afro Samurai vibes, but
The beer was in the frame.
So it kind of gave me Afro Samurai vibes, but I actually prefer this show. As much as I like Afro Samurai.
Let's be real. Afro Samurai was better as like an art set than it was as an actual franchise. Because like, when they tried to tack on like a story to it, aside from like synopsises, it kind of synopses.
Give Samuel L. Jackson credit though.
He's good in it, but the show really falls apart once it like actually has to do something like tell a concrete plot.
And the main character is boring. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not to mention the plot. It's just Branded to Kill and No More Heroes. It really is. It's just you gotta kill the number one assassin, to be the
this one's great because the main character is...
It feels weird being in the middle, I realized. Like being in the middle of a couch. I'm sorry. I was just like, Daulton has his leg almost on me and I have a cord wrapped on my ankle. I'm like, I'm in the middle of a couch.
Like, fair warning, show's kind of bleak and you're gonna want to punch the main character in the face, but it's to its own benefit.
Okay.
But enough about our ramping intros. Let's get to Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is one of the first cult films I fell in love with.
Ow.
And the reason I'm doing this too, aside from being one of the first films I ever thought of when I thought of the podcast, is this is also one of the first movies I bought for myself. I had an old DVD copy. It has long since left my mark because I've upgraded to Blu-ray, and then I upgraded to a Steelbook Blu-ray. So, but I adore this film. I first saw it back in... I think actually the year it came out, like 2004.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because it came out in the United States only a few months after. Might have been 2005, but I definitely distinctly remember it was either through... It had to be, because I don't think Netflix started doing the mail order DVDs until, like, what, 2008?
I thought it was 2007, 2008, yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, so I must have rented this from Blockbuster then or something.
Oh my god.
But I remember distinctly
Redbox?
renting this film, and I just loved it. I was already a big horror fan at that point at like...
9 years old?
10 years old, yeah.
10 years old, yeah.
Yeah, 10. I was already a big horror fan at 10, and I was like doing my education of the classics, like... I kind of started out horror by doing like the classics education, I would say.
That's a 9.
Like the Romero films and all that, and classic Universal stuff, old slasher movies. But this really clicked with me. This was one of my first experiences with British comedy, and I just adored this film, and to this day, it is one of my favorite movies. I've seen this so much. Little anecdote, my cousin used to sleep over at my place a lot, and I don't know if he still has it. If you're somehow watching this, hey Ty, how's it going? How you doing, man? Heard you just had a kid. That's pretty cool. But he could not sleep unless there was background noise. Like, he's one of those people, he's got to have background noise to sleep.
I've got the same thing. I keep a fan on all the time.
My sister keeps the TV on full volume and falls asleep.
So we would throw on a TV in my room, and what we would do is hook up my PS2 and pop in a DVD. We only really used the DVDs I owned because they were my DVDs. And
it was your house?
Yeah, and, it's kind of hard to fall asleep to, like, Spider-Man or Daredevil or something like that, or
Yeah.
Hellboy. But
superhero movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was 10.
I would say these 10-year-old boy is gonna want to watch superhero movies.
But what we did have was The Godfather.
Huh.
Yes, I watched The Godfather at a young age, and and Shaun of the Dead, and we would fall asleep to those a lot. So, for those unaware, this is the first film in what is known as the Flavours Cornetto Trilogy by Edgar Wright. It's only his second film, and it was his first film widely released. His first film was a low-budget cowboy parody movie he made in college.
Yeah.
So there's nothing.
Probably like a college thesis or something.
Yeah, nothing really notable to talk about. But what Edgar Wright really cut his teeth on that inspired this film was the classic British sitcom Spaced, which was like many British TV shows, sitcoms especially, very brief.
Yeah, it was very short-lived.
It only ran for 2 seasons, but those 2 seasons were incredibly popular and brought a lot of the cast and crew of the show together.
Yeah.
The film was inspired by many things, like the cast and crew's love of zombie movies.
Namely George Romero.
Yeah. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost's time living in a flat together, and the episode Art of Spaced, in which Tim takes some bad street drugs trying to stay up and play Resident Evil 2, which at the time was still relatively new. And there's the little, like, sequences where, like, the speed kicks in bad and he, like, hallucinates zombies and, like, holding a gun and shooting at them. But they had so much fun shooting the zombie scenes that Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg were like, we should make a zombie movie. And, like, the idea was, like, we should make, like, the piss-take zombie movie. Like, the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to Dawn of the Dead, you know? But, yeah, a lot of them came from Spaced. It's actually where their editor, Chris Dickens, cut his teeth on. And Dickens even went on to edit many other acclaimed films, such as the second film in the Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz. And he actually won a BAFTA for his editing on Slumdog Millionaire.
Nice.
And since then has become a really prolific celebrated film editor. Cinematography was done by a journeyman director, David M. Dunlop, who does a fine job with the cinematography. Although in this film, the directing and editing is honestly the star. Like,
oh yeah.
Because, like, no offense to Dunlop, but he is a journeyman cinematographer.
Yeah.
Along with this, he's done everything from, like, Virus to Meet Dave. Yeah, the Eddie Murphy. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Fun fact about the editing in this movie, the transitions were actually done in camera.
Oh.
Yeah, if you pay attention, all the transitions in this movie are done in camera.
That's hard.
It is
tough.
And they said they actually did that to not only make the editing punchier, but to make the film feel more surreal, because in camera edits often feel more like surreal and dreamy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The score was actually a joint effort between Dan Mudford and Pete Woodhead, who usually aren't normally composers, and they mostly do additional crew work on various films. They actually were inspired to do it by Italian zombie film scores, like Zombie and that kind of stuff. And even the scores are like Goblin's done for Italian horror films.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually used a lot of the same musical cues and library and tracks from Dawn of the Dead, the original version. Yeah, this movie was unusually marketed as well. Essentially, what they did was they dropped extras dressed up as, like, zombies into random parts of, like, London to show, like, how quick and sudden an outbreak could be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they also put, like, the famous film poster of, like, Shaun pressed up against
Like
the glass of, like, a subway train surrounded by zombies.
On the back of, like,
and
trolleys.
they put it in, like, subway stations so you would see it as you're flashing past, and it would would make it look like you're passing another car.
Kind of reminds me
with zombies in it and stuff.
Kind of reminds me of the marketing for that terrible Roland Emmerich Godzilla movie.
Yeah, and it's actually a pretty deep movie too. It's been cited as for comedy studies, transatlantic comedy. Specifically, the humor is very British, but people have noticed, like, compared the duo comedy aspect of it to, like, a lot of American comedy work. It's been used for studies in disease control, analyses of post 9/11 paranoia, and even some Marxist studies. I haven't read the paper, but apparently there was a whole Marxist paper on Shaun of the Dead.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And the film was also actually inspired by the real-life 2001 foot and mouth pandemic
in the UK.
And Edgar Wright only ever saw stuff about it in passing because it didn't affect his area, and he kind of holed himself up in his apartment. So he realized, wow, the right person could really just kind of like
not know a zombie apocalypse,
not know a
happening.
pandemic was going on, and just kind of like cruise
Which
through
I
it.
hear is kind of like the whole backbone of this movie's narrative.
Yeah,
imagine it being I don't know, April 2020, and you're not paying attention to the news or anything. You're like, why are people wearing masks? Why do they have to stay home? And then you just turn on the TV and you're just like, the fuck, and change the channel.
So for context, real quick, I am the uninitiated in this particular scenario.
I love this movie.
Same.
I have only ever seen one Cornetto Trilogy movie, that being Hot Fuzz, itself a hilarious action comedy with a fucking surreal twist.
Yeah, it's funny. This movie, a lot of people didn't even think it was going to like succeed or get made. Edgar Wright had to like basically put himself into debt and on the backlog because he refused to work on anything except this movie until it got picked up. And funny enough, when it did get picked up, it got picked up by Working Title, which they thought was perfectly ironic because Working Title is mainly known for the rom-coms that this movie is taking a bit of a piss out of.
Yeah.
Because every movie of the Cornetto trilogy has some thematic similarities. They always deal with themes of maturity. They're always a cross between two genre flicks, a comedy and another genre. Mm-hmm. They all feature Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and Edgar Wright. And they all have recurring jokes. There's always the fence gag in every film.
Oh, yeah.
And they all feature a Cornetto ice cream where it comes from. It was never originally intended as a trilogy. It was just in production of the third film that they decided to make it a thematic trilogy because people pointed out, hey, wait a minute. There's overlaps between all of these movies. And Edgar Wright jokingly was like, oh, yeah, it's called the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy.
After the ice cream.
Yeah, it was inspired by the Three Colors trilogy by Polish filmmaker Krzysztof Kozlowski. Yeah.
I was say, I know you're pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, and it's filled with all sorts of British comedy alumni, a bunch of cast and crew members from Spaced and other British sitcoms and comedies in general.
Like Black Books being one
Black
of them.
Books, The Office.
Oh yeah, the
original British Office. There's some cast members from it.
Yeah.
You even got Matt Lucas from Little Britain and Doctor Who in the show, briefly in the movie, and even cameos from Chris Martin and Johnny Buckland from Coldplay. Because
Chris Martin?
Yes. Simon Pegg's friends with him, so he did a little cameo in the movie.
That's funny.
That is funny.
And it was actually filmed super cheap, made a moderate success, but since then it's become a cult classic. And this movie came right before the big zombie explosion of the mid to late 2000s.
Oh yeah, look at Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, it came out the same year as Dawn of the Dead.
28 days later.
Yeah. Resident Evil 4, it came out before Resident Evil 4, a year before it. Came out a year after the Zombie Survival Guide, and it came out the same year as Resident Evil Apocalypse.
Oh, wow.
So it was right before that really big zombie boom. And yeah, it was all filmed around London, the North End, around Crouch End, where the film's set. Mm-hmm. They used a real-life electronics store for the scene with the electronics store. And the Winchester, which is also named after the rifle company, was a real pub known as the Duke of Albany, which is now apartments. Yeah. And funny enough, the reason it's also called the Winchester is another Dead film reference.
Oh, okay.
Because in the first movie, Night of the Living Dead, Ben uses a Winchester rifle to defend.
Oh.
There's all sorts of stuff. A bunch of the characters are actually named after Dead film trilogies, like Peter, who is also played by Peter Serafinowicz, the voice of Darth Maul, who also was on Spaced as a meta joke because Tim hates
Oh yeah,
the Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace.
And Darth Maul, literally the literal Darth Maul played his romantic rival. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
And yeah, it's filled with music references. We'll get more into that and talk more about it, but I want to get in this movie and share it with them. I got so much trivia. We got a little charge left in the camera, so we're going to go into our screening of Shaun of the Dead, and I will come back to you with all sorts of fun trivia. See you soon. Hey, and we are back. Sorry for the rambling outro of the intro section. We just were running out of camera battery, but luckily we are in a much better spot for a camera battery now, so everything should be fine. We're back from watching Shaun of the Dead, which we forgot to give the synopses to you. So we're going to do that real quick. Essentially, the film follows...
I'm trying to frame myself.
But we're already recording.
Yeah. Oops.
The film follows follows the slacker, Shaun, who's about to be 30, and is essentially still, like, doing the same stuff he did when he was in college.
Smoking, drinking, playing video games.
Not really...
Working a part-time job
at a hardware store, at an appliance store. Not really, like...
Kind of aimless.
Yeah, kind of aimless, just going with the flow. And his things are on the rocks with his girlfriend because she wants him to do more. And
she wants him to do more with his life, basically, and be a better partner.
Yeah, and after slipping up one last time, and she cuts him loose, and him and his best buddy, who is a total layabout, have
kind of an idiot,
have a drunken night out. And during the night, they fail to notice that the world around them is falling apart, and wake up the next day to see that a zombie outbreak has happened, and now they must get themselves together, get their shit together, and try to see if they can save their lives, and if Shaun can maybe save his relationship. So, as we said, it's the first of the three Flavours Cornetto trilogy. The inclusion of the cornetto in this film is actually due to the fact that Edgar Wright's hangover cure is a strawberry cornetto.
Oh.
So that's the reason when they're both hungover and Shaun asks Ed if he wants anything from the shop and he says cornetto. That's because Edgar Wright was throwing in a little bit of his own life into the script.
Also, if you're American like we are, and you had to Google search what a cornetto is, think like a drumstick ice cream bar.
Yeah, they're pretty similar to drumsticks.
It's pretty just the same thing as a drumstick, only there's different flavors as opposed to just like chocolate or peanut or whatever.
Yeah, they have I know they have strawberry, which is used in this film, Classico, which is used in Hot Fuzz, and mint, which appears at like the very end of the world's end.
Sorry for coughing on you.
That's okay.
So, all these films are thematic. They all like relate to each other. All feature Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in the lead roles. All deal with themes of maturity. This was all filmed in London.
North
London in the suburbs. It's actually filmed where it's set, which is a rarity for film.
Yeah, because like I'm just gonna use an example, like when they use say like I know
the filter.
I'm sorry, that's just funny to me. When they use like say they're filming for New York, but they use like Chicago or Pittsburgh or Omaha or something. Yeah. And I'm like, or LA. LA's an odd one because LA looks nothing like New York.
Sometimes they'll use Toronto's
another one.
For New York and
like they did in Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Did Jason Takes Manhattan?
And a bunch of Bollywood movies, actually, believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Richie, why don't you tell us what you think since you're the uninitiated?
Of course. This movie kicks ass. I have no other way to transition into,
Oh, careful.
I had no way to transition into my real opinions on this movie because this movie just has everything. Yeah. It's got some great cinematography for, especially for a zombie film. Mm-hmm. It's got amazing acting across the board. Oh, yeah. The verbal and comic timing. Yeah, the comedy of this is just spot on.
Oh, yeah.
But what really struck me, what snuck up on me, was how much this movie works as just a zombie film outside of the comic sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, sorry, continue.
It's unique, and it's
like,
yeah.
I was not surprised by Simon Pegg and Nick Frost just being a perfect double act because I had seen Hot Fuzz. Mm-hmm. But what did surprise me is just how much I actually teared up in this movie. Because as with the
it's a zombie film. People are gonna die.
You know?
Well, yeah,
Or
it's
eaten.
Just...
Yeah.
We're gonna be eaten into zombies. Two options here.
To quote myself, when I was just talking to Erin just before this segment, I came in expecting Zombieland, but ended up getting a bit of Telltale's The Walking Dead. And I do mean that because the show is...
So you
I mean,
overall...
the first few seasons of the show are okay.
Okay.
So what would you say overall? How'd you feel about it?
Close candidate for my favorite zombie movie already.
Nice.
Up there with the original Dawn of the Dead, and the aforementioned Zombieland.
Yeah.
Well, this movie has a lot of callbacks to Shaun of the Dead.
It
does.
It does.
It has a lot of callbacks to itself.
Yes. It does. Though.
But also, but speaking of callbacks to itself, it does have callbacks to certain scenes or phrases that are used earlier in the film. But what I was getting to...
Yeah, I mean, you've got like, you know, we won't say too much because spoilers. There's a death scene ripped straight out of the Dead films.
You know the one.
Yeah. Character names straight from the Dead films.
Yeah, like
Barbara.
I would say
Pete, David.
Because like David is the roommate, and Barbara is Shaun's mom.
But those are also all the names of characters from the Dead movies.
They even do the homage to the unforgettable line from Night of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah, removing the head or destroying
we're coming to get you, Barbara.
And also the news broadcast of removing the head or destroying the brain.
Yeah. You can feel the love that Edgar Wright and his production posse had for the zombie movies of that era in basically every element.
I just really do like up on my head.
But yeah, a fun fact, they actually asked Romero for his permission to do the title as a pun on Dawn of the Dead, and also to like do a little cheeky reference here and there. And
we're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yeah, and he totally approved of it. And when the film actually came out and he saw it, he loved it, and he thought it was hilarious. So much so that this came out like a year before Land of the Dead did.
Oh.
And it was real quick. Everyone's schedules are crazy, but he was able to fit Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright into the film as zombies. In fact, they're prominent zombies in the movie for one scene that are they're in like two scenes and they're credited. They're credited as photo booth zombies because when they're showing like the way the dead are being exploited in the Land of the Dead stuff, there's like you can pose and take your picture with a zombie, and the zombies are Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg. And later, when everything goes to shit, they're two of the zombies that burst out of their chains and start to eat people and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't surprise me because George Romero, from what I can tell, was a famously chill guy.
He was.
Like,
very nice.
And also pretty collaborative. I mean, look at Creepshow. I mean, the guy just loved getting together actors or filmmakers together to just put out something fun.
Yeah.
So I was going to mention this, and this is speaking of George Romero. So George Romero is from Pittsburgh, that my hometown. He's from Pittsburgh, and basically, if you lived in Pittsburgh between the '60s and the early 2000s, you ran into Fred Rogers at some point. He lived there. It's like the joke of running into Maury Povich in New York City.
Oh, are you gonna tell
the story about
George Romero?
Yeah. So George Romero and Fred Rogers were actually really good friends. They worked together. Funny enough, George Romero worked on a couple episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
That's how he got like his start.
That's how he got his start, was working for WQED.
And doing like local commercials for like brew companies.
For breweries and that kind of thing. Because there was an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood where I was like trying to get kids from being afraid of like going to the doctor or like having to go to the hospital. And the episode was like Fred Rogers getting his tonsils out. Mm-hmm. Oh. And George Romero directed that episode.
He actually shot that.
It's kind of funny because, you know...
You would not expect that at all.
The horror guy teaching you not to be afraid.
Yeah, teaching you not to be afraid of doctors.
And the funny thing, the really funny thing is George wanted to leave and do his own thing.
Yeah.
And he told Fred.
Yeah. And Fred was pretty much okay with it.
He's like, yeah, go do your thing.
Yeah, go do your thing. Go make your art. Do what makes you happy. And so George went on to make Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead. Dawn of the Dead is a different movie. He went on to make Night of the Living Dead. He invited Fred Rogers to the screening. Huh. And Fred Rogers said, George, you made one hell of a movie.
That's funny.
Yeah. He was like, I enjoyed myself.
It's just...
He actually liked it, which I find very funny how, of all people, Fred Rogers enjoyed Night of the Living Dead.
The cleanest guy on the planet enjoying Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, that is funny. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the film's all about the importance of cooperation.
Yeah, it
teaches you a lesson.
It does, actually. It does.
It does.
It's not meant for 4-year-olds, but
you will certainly learn a lesson.
Sometimes adults need to relearn lessons.
Yeah.
That they learned as kids, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been rewatching clips from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood recently. Yeah. It's my comfort zone.
I mean, they're all good movies. I mean, what's the worst one? Land of the Dead? Day of the Dead?
No, I would say Island of the Dead's probably the worst one.
I haven't seen that existed.
Oh, yeah, that's the last one he did.
That sucks.
Let me put it this way. It's basically Hatfields and McCoys.
Oh, no.
But on an island between two different, like, British families, and there's zombies in the background, basically.
Okay,
that's odd.
It's boring.
It's
really boring.
Oh.
Let's talk about the score.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The score's really good.
The score and the needle drops.
Oh, the needle drops.
Oh, God, the needle drops.
That's the standout.
Mm-hmm.
But the needle drops will have to be saved for later. Daulton, I think you're the expert on the score. Yeah,
well, what's the the opening track's really good. You said you knew what that opening track when Shaun's waking up is. You looked it up.
I looked it up, but I can't think of the name.
Is it like I Monster or something?
Yeah, it is I Monster.
I Monster, which that's the perfect opening tone, especially because it feels like mall music, which appropriate reference to Dawn of the Living Dead. Yeah, it sounds like mall music.
And the funny thing, I was doing reading on...
Whoa, crap.
We're back to old school Killer Squad.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's upside down, we dropped it.
The arm, I slipped. Anyway.
Okay, so, we'll fix that in post. No, we won't.
You can't fix that in post, I apologize.
No,
I'll bring it down. I'm the engineer.
He's the engineer. No, what I was going to say is, they originally wanted to get a different song. Or they were originally going to use a different song.
And they edited it to a different song.
But what ended up happening is when they were in the editing room, Edgar Wright was listening to I Monster, and he was like, and he realized that the music he was listening to in the editing room worked better for the scene than the movie he originally picked for the scene.
And it was the same BPM. So
yeah, it was the same tempo.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great needle drops.
Of course, Don't Stop Me Now, which everyone knows.
Yeah, the metal music in the car and the driving scenes, that's fun.
All the punk music.
Oh, yeah.
The electro music and
when they're drunk and playing the record player.
That's actually something funny I wanted to bring up about this movie, which gets me into stuff that they cut for both budgetary sakes.
And time constraints.
Which, honestly... one of my only complaints about this movie, because when you learn about it, I feel it lessens the film just a little bit. They cut out every single reference to Shaun's failed dream
Of wanting to be a DJ.
of wanting to be a DJ. That's why he has so many vinyls. That's why
he has the turntable.
That's why he does the record scratch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention, it's hard to spot. You have to look for it. In the apartment in that room, there's a poster for his DJ act that he used to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why did they cut that?
They said they felt it wasn't necessary to establish he was a deadbeat, but
because it was already kind of shown.
But here's my thing. The reason I don't like that is it shows that Shaun was abandoning an ambition he had by working at the store. Mm-hmm. He had given up on a dream, and in a way, I think it shows that his relationship with Liz was more complicated than it was established. Because you could infer that maybe Shaun gave up his dream for Liz.
Yeah.
Note to self, call every agent and connection I have and arrange some collaborations.
And get this pop filter fixed.
Better keep me in on that.
Anytime, bro.
Yeah. So, and I think that is a shame because it immediately shows another area Shaun's changing. Liz says she wants Shaun to take better care of himself. And in the second of the stroll to the store scenes, which I love those scenes, by the way, because you can tell they're shot in one take, too.
Yeah.
And the composition.
Oh, yeah, the shot composition. It's really good.
I'm just thinking about how many times they had to do that take with just the kid hitting him with the soccer ball.
Yeah, because if someone misses their mark, you just got to redo the whole thing.
The whole thing falls apart if it flies by his head.
If just one person screws something up. So, the first time he goes to the store, he grabs a Coke. Mm-hmm. Second time he goes to the store, he grabs a Diet Coke instead.
Because didn't he say earlier in the movie, just like as a throwaway line, that he was going to try to take care of himself? Because, yeah. And
you said you'd go back to the gym, take better care of yourself. Yeah.
You quit smoking.
It shows he's already trying, even in a small way, to change. And the fact that he was that when they first get attacked by zombies and they start to throw vinyls at them, that's a big deal.
Yeah, because he's throwing away his record collection.
He's throwing away something that was very important to him for the sake of survival.
Sorry.
Yep.
No, I was also going to mention, didn't they have to get the permission from New Order to use the cover art for Blue Monday?
Okay, so they were trying to get the permission of every single artist mentioned there to show the cover art, which is why you only see the cover for the single for Blue Monday and Sade's Diamond Life. In fact, they were the only people that got back about the vinyl scene, and both were incredibly enthusiastic. New Order said, yeah, that's funny, do that. And Sade says, oh, yeah, I hated that record. Chuck it.
Oh, it's Sade.
Yeah.
Wow, you thought it was Sade, didn't you?
No. I love characterization like that, though.
Yeah.
Stuff where every part of the film and the shot composition and the background details play into Shaun's characterization. For an everyday slacker, he is a richly layered character.
Yes.
Also, he has a great record collection.
He does.
He had 3 Prince albums.
They mentioned
Blue
Stone
Monday,
Roses.
Stone Roses.
Yeah.
Where can I get that Blue Monday?
Yeah, and
good luck.
And he even yelled at Ed because he says it was the original pressing.
That's the original
Damn.
pressing of Blue Monday. And
He's
I'm
like,
just...
oops.
He must have...
Well, he probably got it when it came out.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
When it was released.
That reminds me.
Because he was 29 in the film, which is set in 2004. So, yeah, he was definitely, young.
And he said he stopped taking sugar in his tea in 1982.
Yeah, so he was definitely young when that came out.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe he stopped putting sugar in his tea when he listened to Blue Monday.
Who knows?
But yeah.
Who knows?
But yeah, music's very important to this. There's the aforementioned Don't Stop Me Now scene, which I'm not going to spoil that scene. All I say is there's a scene timed to Don't Stop Me Now. It's really funny.
It's
And
hilarious.
a testament to
editing.
Yeah.
Wright's talent for Mickey Mousing.
They actually wore the people involved in the fight scene with that wore earbuds so they would have the timing perfect.
Oh yeah, they would have to wear monitors or something.
Yeah.
Or a little like
Little earbuds, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had to clear the rights for that. They begged Brian May. They literally sent Brian May a letter to get it through. And Brian May saw the film, thought it was funny, and was like, yeah, sure.
Not an easy feat because
No.
that man has...
All the members of Queen who are still alive suck, and I hate them, to be honest. This was one of the few good things Brian May did. Bohemian Rhapsody is a travesty of a film and a character assassination work made by some bitter old men.
Also,
Mercury was a genius, you hacks!
Yeah.
Also, that is the worst editing I've seen in any movie since...
Oh, God.
Abdul, let me finish. Since I made... When I was 13, tried to make a student film with Windows Movie Maker.
Yeah.
But,
that tells you how bad it is. Sorry, continue.
But fun fact, if they couldn't get the rights for Don't Stop Me Now, which, by the way, this movie is credited with popularizing that song.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was considered an obscure Queen deep cut.
Like a deep cut.
Yeah. It was never one of their big singles before that. But after that, it started to go up on singles charts and get played on radio stations a lot. Yeah.
Because, before that, Queen... When you think Queen, you think We Are the Champions, Bohemian Rhapsody.
We Will Rock You.
And hell, even
Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga,
that's a big one.
which...
Which is where Lady Gaga got her name.
Yep.
Which, honestly, Radio Gaga, not my favorite Queen song ever. It's very much the... the best Queen songs for me are more on the timeless end of things.
Yeah.
And whereas Radio Gaga is like...
Or I Want to Break Free, you know?
Somebody to Love.
Yeah.
But like with Radio Gaga, it's like, yep, this was 80s. This was...
Oh, yeah.
Like the synths are just... I don't know.
And the subject matter. Too.
Also,
Yeah.
I love Killer Queen.
Yep.
Those finger snaps.
Well, I wasn't going to say finger snaps. I was going to say there's one line in this. There's one part of the song that unless you're trained and unless you're like vocally trained, is very hard to do.
Oh, is it the drop of a hat part?
No, it's like momentarily out of action.
Oh yeah. Octave changes like that will kill you if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the drop of a hat, because that's really
Drop
hard.
of a hat, she's a pussycat.
Yeah, that part's really difficult.
I got the line wrong.
That,
you know what I mean.
that whole song is really difficult.
It is really difficult.
As I was going to say, now I get back to it.
Sorry.
If they couldn't get Don't Stop Me Now, they had one song left in the back catalog. It was going to be Rasputin if they couldn't get Don't Stop Me.
That's fucking funny.
Which, I'll admit, also would have worked really well for Russian King. It would have worked as well. It would have worked as well.
The timing.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have worked as well, but I'm glad it came out to Don't Stop Me Now.
No, I'm gonna have to get a clip of this movie, put Rasputin over it, and be like, I wonder how well this is going to work.
No.
Just mute it and then just put and then just put Rasputin over it and be like, I wonder.
Here's what you do, Erin.
Yeah.
We call James Gunn because he is the king of syncing action scenes to weird songs.
No, I still give it Edgar Wright. Baby Driver.
Yeah, true. I'm just saying though, like, look at the "Come a Little Bit Closer" scene from Guardians 2.
I'm trying to remember Guardians 2. All I remember is Kurt Russell and all the memes.
That was the one with that was the scene with the arrow, the whistling arrow.
The whistling arrow where Michael Rooker kills everybody.
I vaguely remember that.
Come a little bit closer, you're my kind of man. Yeah.
Oh, that song, yeah.
It's so fucking cheesy.
The reason, because I remember the first time I watched that was like Christmas Eve, and it was you, me, and my grandma, and she's like, I don't understand these movies.
The funny thing about this, anyway, the funny thing about this movie too is they had like no budget with this movie.
It was $6 million, right?
It was, £6 million. Pounds. Which at the time was the equivalent to like $4 million US.
Yeah.
Which is nothing for a movie.
That is underground film budget.
That's
fact,
like a once budget.
in fact, they only had so much.
There's no actual numbers for once, but anyway.
They only had so much money for prosthetics and everything, extras. They could only like pay about 50 trained extras.
Mm-hmm.
So what they had to do was they had to get creative with it. The action scene where they beat the crap out of the one guy to the "Don't Stop Me Now," which I'm not going to go into too much detail. He was actually a trained stunt performer in his 70s.
Well,
yeah, he was old as shit.
And he gave them permission. He was like, "Oh yeah, go whale. I'm trained for this."
I'm trying to get beaten with.
He was like, make it look good, you know.
It's like British Evel Knievel.
But the way they actually handled the extras is really fun too. For all the zombies that are like missing body parts or limbs, they got actual disabled actors.
Oh.
So like that.
So they wouldn't have to CG out body parts.
Yeah, or like do prosthetic work, like the zombie groomman that comes in when they forget to lock the door at the beginning and he's missing an arm. That was just the guy who was missing an arm.
Yeah, it's just some guy with one arm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ingenuity. Very smart.
Yes. And also, it gives disabled people jobs
Yeah.
in the film industry.
And the funny way that they padded out actors is I mentioned that a lot of the alumni from Spaced worked on this.
Yes.
And Spaced was still pretty popular in syndication and reruns.
Yeah.
So Edgar Wright himself went on Spaced fan forums and was like, "Hey, look,
we're doing a movie.
We got a movie. If you love Spaced and you would love to help Edgar out with his new movie, come on down and we'll put you in zombie get up and you can be in the movie. We'll credit you. We can't pay you a lot, but we'll feed you and we'll pay you £1. We'll give you £1, you know, because like they were struggling for money. You know?
They were shoestring. One show though, and I think the budget's actually to its benefit.
It is.
Because it does very much successfully emulate the aesthetic and the look of a late stage George Romero movie. Well, like with the blood effects and the makeup for the zombies. I straight up thought I was watching Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
It was...
Because, one thing... I mean, Daulton, no, actually both of you know this. When it comes to theater makeup and prosthetics, how time-consuming that is.
Yeah.
Because I was not a theater kid. I was the person behind the camera.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. But what I remember seeing the theater kids who took theater prep, which was a class in my high school of just like how to do design, costumes, makeup, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the makeup, real quick before I forget, Tom Savini actually said he admired the makeup work in the movie and said it was
I
good.
love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember one day they were doing a zombie makeup day. Mm-hmm. So like all the theater prep kids walking around looking like zombies.
Let me tell you something. When you are told by Tom Savini that your makeup is good, it's fucking good.
Yeah.
And what's funny is this movie, it's become such a cult icon, and it's referenced in countless zombie media. It's in Left 4 Dead 2. The whole inclusion of the cricket bat weapon in Left 4 Dead 2 is a reference to Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. There's some other fun stuff, too, I was going to bring up, like the fact that before, which is funny because no one thought this movie was going to be a success, basically.
That's funny.
It was shopped around to like 1 billion companies. It took forever for anyone to pick it up, and it was the aforementioned working titles, which was mainly known for like, you know, lower budget romantic comedies.
Yeah.
Because most studios had the same complaints, for example, that like Joel Schumacher got with The Lost Boys, where people were like, Is this a comedy? Is it a romantic film? What is this?
Yes.
Yeah, and they were just like, but no one believed in it. In fact, here's a funny behind the scenes story. Edgar Wright was just running around on the set doing some tasks, and a zombie extra came up to him who clearly thought he was a runner or something.
Yeah.
And went, oof, this movie, right? Direct to DVD, you think?
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Oh.
But, it was I didn't bring up the numbers, but it was a good success for a small budget. It had about $4 million US, made about 39 million globally.
Ooh.
Which solid numbers.
Yeah,
and
you almost 10 times your budget.
yeah, and people saw it and were impressed, and it led Wright to getting carte blanche to do a lot of other projects.
Yeah.
Allowed him to fund the rest of the Cornetto movies. And
sorry, I'm just like
what's-
back. I'm hidden.
She's disappearing.
and only a few years ago, it was actually released in Japan in 2019.
Oh.
And since then, it's blown up in Japan to the point that there's actually a Shaun of the Dead. There's a statue named Shaun of the Dead in the Hakone Open Air Museum.
Really?
Yeah, and
I
it's
love that.
and it's a zombie hand coming out of the ground, and
That's
the statue's
cool.
called Shaun of the Dead.
Also, Shaun's shirt is in a museum.
Yeah, Shaun's bloodied shirt is in the Seattle Museum of Pop Culture.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
When my brother got married, we went there.
yeah, and another funny thing, would probably led to this film eventually getting released over there, is Simon Pegg is also a bit of a cult actor over in Japan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like one of his films that most people have forgotten that got middling, kind of mixed reviews over here. It was one of those films that was a moderate success, but huge in Japan.
Which one?
Paul.
I would say, is it Paul?
With the alien?
Yeah. Japan loved Paul.
Yeah,
Like,
'cause-
there's a huge fan community for Paul over there. It gets referenced in part 8 of JoJo.
Okay, then.
Really?
I don't understand
one
JoJo.
of one of the big family.
The Higashikatas.
Yeah, one of the Higashikatas loves Paul, and even brings up, he's like, I want to watch my Blu-ray of Paul while I'm sitting in the pool.
Wait, let me ask you something.
What?
Is it Joshu?
I forget.
Is
No,
it
it's
the
not. It's not
Flash
Joshu.
Hawk
No,
kid?
it's not Joshu.
Oh.
But it's like the blonde guy.
I'm gonna pretend like I know
Jobin.
what's going on.
Yeah, and the funny part is when he says Paul, Araki draws a little Paul in the word balloon. There's like a little illustration.
A little
of
alien.
A little alien. So I wouldn't be surprised if that and the success of the Mission Impossible films over there.
Yeah.
And I think Hot Fuzz and The World's End were pretty successful over there.
No, it's funny because you mentioned like a lesser known Simon Pegg movie, but the movie that came to my mind was like, what's the least known Simon Pegg movie? And I was like, Run Fat Boy Run.
No, I would say a Fantastic Fear of Everything would be,
That's another one. Yeah.
or
I
that,
think Run Fat Boy Run was direct to DVD.
or the one he did a few years ago where he that I still haven't seen yet, which is basically just the story of Ged, the talking mongoose.
Oh yeah, I actually did want to see that movie.
I do want to see that
Did the
movie.
camera move?
No, we just all moved.
Oh, okay, yeah.
'Cause when we
We
in
were all back
Oh,
there, and then
yeah,
we moved
okay.
up, so it
Yeah.
makes it look like the camera moved.
But,
Whoa!
See, now it's
Whoa! Okay, but
Dude, look at that waveform. That's funny.
even the waveform matched the movements. So-
oh yeah, it does that.
That's funny.
let's do a wave.
Whoa!
Yeah, we sucked at that.
Yeah, whatever. We weren't trying. But no, I think this movie really showed that Edgar Wright had the chops. I mean, he really showed it with Spaced a few years before, because that film has a lot. That TV show had a lot of homages and pop culture references. It was immaculately shot and edited as well.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Spaced, check it out. It's aged pretty freaking well. There's like
Yeah,
one.
there's one episode
There's
that
one
doesn't age
episode that hasn't aged that well, which is a shame because that is the same episode where Shaun of the Dead,
Oh yeah. It's
Are-
like where they show like
the Brian's ex, who
Brian's ex.
there's a bit of transphobia sort of thing,
No, more than a bit, but yeah.
but I mean, but they do kind of establish that. I will say in defense of that episode, there's not really transphobia.
it's just the way that they portray the trans
it's-
character.
Yeah.
They look
It's
like
a
the
bit
number of blue
stereotypic, and well, it's more of I would say it's less to do with him,
Ignorance?
with the character being trans, more to do with the character being a pretentious art asshole who nobody likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Well,
Brian's an artist.
Brian,
But if he's antagonistic,
yeah, it's less of like trans people. It's like
It's more like
performance artists, you know.
Yeah.
It's more like oh god, experimental performance artists. I hate them.
Yeah, because Brian's ex walks into the bar looking like a member of Blue Man Group.
Yeah, it's got a whole. It's an iffy episode, but pretty much everything else is really good. Spaced. It has aged really well.
I still love the. I'm sorry. My favorite episode of Spaced is when Brian is. I can't remember if it's the same episode or a different one, but he's trying to do like a whole art exhibit. And he falls off the ladder and hits his head, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is so innovative!" And and he's just unconscious, laying next to a bucket of paint.
And they think that's the art exhibit.
They think that's the art exhibit.
That's a different episode.
It's a different episode, but it's really funny.
I like how they're talking about space. I'm just like, I'm a chill here because I don't know anything.
Is it still on Hulu?
I don't know, but it's available on a lot.
I'll put up a caption if I find out where it is on streaming.
Yeah, go watch it. I mean, it'll be in different territories. VPNs are a thing.
Yeah. So, do we want to do a spoiler section for this, or?
Actually, yes, because I do have a bit of trivia
involving
spoilers.
That's good because I want to get into how this movie, by the way, filmed in February and stuff, week of Valentine's Day. Consider this the Valentine's special.
I mean, it is a romantic comedy, and I forgot to mention the other reason I wanted to do this movie. Next month marks the 20th anniversary of its release in the UK.
Oh.
Yeah, it came out March of 2004 in the UK, so that's the other reason I wanted.
Spoilers.
Yep.
Spoiler territory.
Okay, we are entering spoilers now. You have been warned.
1104.
We will put up a time card below when the spoilers end.
Yep.
Okay?
All right, let's go.
All right. You've been warned. We're out of it.
Yep.
Okay. So, just like any other Dead movie, a lot of people die.
No one is safe.
Only one cast member, only two cast members, main cast members survive in the form of Shaun and Liz. Everyone else is killed or zombified. Or so you think.
Yeah.
In fact,
Diane.
You never see Diane's death.
Yeah, you never see if she gets.
You see her rush out into the horde.
She just runs out to save.
Try to save David. So, there are extras on the DVD, and I believe they're in the re-releases, of animatics of certain things that got cut from the film, or they considered putting in the film.
Oh, did she survive?
Yes. She manages to beat her way through the crowd with a leg, realizes she can't save David. So
she's carrying his leg.
So she climbs up a tree, and the zombies try to get to her. She ends up falling asleep in the tree.
Remind you of anyone?
Yeah, myself. True story. I fell asleep in a tree once, and it's a long story.
Yeah.
But we see through the animatic that Diane survived the night. She woke up, had no idea what happened. And then she does a little diatribe describing what happened to herself after Z-Day, which is what they start to refer to the day of the outbreak of.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the movie,
the day the zombies came.
There's a 6-month time gap at the end of the movie. Shows what's happened to the main cast since then, with the exception of Diane. But long story short, she lives. She ends up making a nice, quaint little life for herself after.
That's cool.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, it is nice, and that's where some of the cameos come in. Chris Martin and one of the other members of
Jerry Buckland or something.
Johnny something.
Johnny Buckland. Johnny Buck something.
Hold on, I got it in my notes. But after the 6-month time gap, let's see, it was Chris Martin and Johnny Buckland from Coldplay.
Oh, yeah, right.
Appear on TV as part of like a benefit concert. They don't have any lines, but they briefly appear. They're like, oh, now we have Chris Martin and Johnny Buckland from Coldplay talking about their benefit gig at Zombade. And it's funny, but they show that zombies, the ones that weren't killed, have essentially been, put into like menial labor things where they're chained down, put on the entertainment for like game shows and talk shows and stuff. Society's basically moved on.
Yeah. It's like zombies still exist, but they're entertainment now.
Yeah. I love a lot of the prolonged match cuts and parallels that happen. Obviously, the first thing to point out would be the intro, where Shaun first walks to the store, and then he walks to the store while Z-Day's happening. But they also show zombies doing real simple stuff in manners not too dissimilar to
what they would be doing.
What they would have been doing if they were just
zombies.
Regular. And it goes to show you just how little distance there is between humans and zombies.
Yeah, because thank you. Because like at the beginning of the movie, they show like people like slowly walking, shuffling around.
Yeah, just
like it's like early in the morning,
and
no
they
one wants
sway
to be here.
and stuff.
They sway. They're doing it in unison. There's some guy on his phone.
They're going through the motions.
They're going through the motions. Yeah, the motions of everyday life.
And
then when the zombie apocalypse happens, it's like, okay, so they're undead, but they're doing the same thing.
Yeah,
it takes Shaun a bit to even register that's happening.
Yeah, you have the zombie like beggar coming towards Shaun. They ask for change. You have the zombie child kicking the ball around,
kicking him in the head with a soccer ball.
Yeah, it's you know it's a statement on how we all kind of drift through our lives without realizing it. Great movie though, and I just love it. There's one other thing I was going to bring up, interestingly enough. In fact, the success of the movie was so great for Edgar Wright that Cornetto almost got delayed a little bit because they were like, oh, well, we got to capitalize on how successful Shaun of the Dead is.
Franchise!
We got to do a sequel. And they went, okay, what if we did a film, another horror like style? Instead of doing zombies, what if we did vampires, and we'll call it From Dusk Till Shaun. Which, great title.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, we kind of killed off the majority of the main cast, and it's a funny title, but we can't think of what we wanted
or how it would work.
Yeah, or what we want to do with it, like what we're gonna say about it, because like, you know, it was a reaction to a very prescient time. I mean, the foot and mouth pandemic was so like of its time. It's what inspired 28 Days Later as well.
Yeah, it could start with animals.
Yeah, it was which there's also a brief reference to that in this when they mention raging animals. Like, you know,
they call it the rage virus for a reason.
Yeah, and they say like an outbreak of diseased animals. You know, it's all reference to that.
Yeah, because foot and mouth was literally like farm animals, just big.
Ungulates in particular.
Yeah,
like
cows.
pigs and cattle.
But yeah, no, I kind of think that, minor little quibbles and gripes aside, this is like, you can't do much better for a movie, especially can't do much better for a cult movie. Everything's great in here. I have like basically no complaints. It's an excellent start to the 3 Flavours Cornetto trilogy. We will eventually cover The World's End because Richie has not seen The World's End.
I've already seen Hot
but
Fuzz.
We're not going to cover Hot Fuzz. We've
all
seen Hot Fuzz. Maybe a guest episode will do Hot Fuzz. I would love to cover all the Cornetto films on here.
Chris, Othie, you know where I am.
Yeah, because I'll be honest.
You have his number.
I'll be honest with you. I love those films, and I would love to cover another one on here. But yeah, I can't think of much else to say about this movie, to be honest, because I just want people to go and watch it, but I will let you guys have your piece.
Yeah, because one thing oh, sorry, do you want to say something, Rich?
You go first.
Okay, because one thing I did want to say is a funny parallel between this and another very popular British media. There was, Edgar Wright mentioned that the idea for this is like, what if the apocalypse happened, but there was like some guy who didn't notice because he was so hungover.
Yeah.
There's a joke in an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Where Donna doesn't realize like the whole doomsday thing because she was hungover.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's actually really funny.
I'll say it again.
Sorry.
Expected to laugh. Expected the cinematography to be great because it's Edgar Wright, and even early Edgar Wright is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
didn't expect to cry. And I did.
You did.
A couple times.
Yep.
It's
one of those I like movies like this where it can be scary, funny, but still have a lot of heart.
Oh yeah, and I just love how much I ended up caring about everyone.
Yeah. You're gonna cry so hard in The World's End.
I don't doubt it.
Because that is the most emotionally resonant of all three of these.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember watching that in theaters and being like, oh no. And I was like 17.
I was breaking down in theaters.
Are we still technically under spoilers real quick?
Yeah.
Because...
What, you got something you want to say?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Mom got me. That part. I won't elaborate, but... Daulton, you were looking over at me like, are you okay, bud? Because I was like...
It's tough stuff.
That whole thing happens, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And then...
Because they basically have to old yeller Shaun's mom.
I was like... I remember being beside myself, I'm like, that sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But...
And like when Philip is talking to Shaun, I noticed you were getting emotional with that too.
It might have hit me where I live a little bit.
Yeah.
I might have some resonance there. But final thoughts pre-closing.
Yeah, let's get out of spoilers.
Again.
Let's get out of spoilers.
Yeah, out of spoilers.
Yeah, we're out of spoilers now.
This is...
10,
I'm so sorry this is my first time seeing it. It was incredible. Yeah. I had so much fun, and this is the sort of stuff I do the podcast for.
Yeah.
This is what I live for, guys.
Yeah.
Aww.
When it comes to horror comedies, you can't get much better.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie countless times. This is one of those movies I've seen.
Oh, I've seen it so many times.
I've seen it a ton. It's never not a great watch. I always end by going, oh man, I was glad I watched Shaun of the Dead again. I love that movie.
Yeah, because even I remember, I think it was like 2020 or something. Mm-hmm. Like I was having a really rough time that year. I mean, everyone was. But I was having a really rough time that year, and I was like, I don't. Yeah, and I didn't want to. And I was like, and it was Halloween, and I'm like, well, I'm not feeling great, and I don't want to watch like horror movies because it might make me paranoid or whatever. So we put on Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah. And we had a great time.
We did have a great time. We watched Shaun of the Dead and Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
So, do you mind if I bring us in, Daulton?
No.
Go ahead.
We're going in. We're going out. We're
going out with a bang.
Going out of February. We're going into March. You know it's coming.
Bridging the gap, which means, of course, musical March.
Yep.
I was originally gonna completely blindside Erin by sneaking up on her with Xanadu.
Please don't.
That's next year. Anyway, hey, I gave you a warning. You'll be all right. Instead, however, since we are bridging the gap between February and March, I decided to throw out a episode that is equal parts Black History Month and Musical March episode with a film adaptation of a Motown-inspired classic that has a lot of fans and also a very layered, troubled history.
Yeah.
That shows you just how much goes wrong if the star wags the director. Join us to go on easing down the road because we're covering The Wiz.
Next time.
On this thing that we're doing. Next time on Killer Score.
Yeah.